Hi guys, I'm Lillian.
And I'm Felipe.
And we are the Postmodern family.
We are Americans living in the UK searching for Great Britain.
We make 3 new videos every week and we would love it if you subscribe to our channel.
In this episode, we're going to react to an interview of Alan Bennett. So, in our reaction to Yorkshire Airlines, if you recall, there were 2 classes of seating on the airline. There was working class, and then there was Alan Bennett class, and we had no idea what that was. So apparently Alan Bennett is a northerner who became posh somehow, whatever that means. So here's an interview of Alan Bennett where he's talking about, I think, that dynamic of coming from the north and stereotypes and perceptions.
Okay.
The only man I know who in Talking Heads can make the kind of conversation a Yorkshireman has with his mother sound riveting. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Bennett. Alan, the northern influences, I was going to say it's still strong, but it's never totally disappeared. Do you find it especially easy writing in the northern idiom?
Well, I think it's what you've been brought up with. I mean, I think most of the people say that, you know, I mean, if I have a strength, it's to do with an ear for dialogue, but I don't have an ear for Cockney dialogue. I mean, in London, I live near a street market. I couldn't actually say how the street market people talk. It's what you've heard in childhood, I think, that and it comes up, and we can hear that. So, in a sense, it's probably the people in Yorkshire talk differently now, or they talk about different things, I don't know. But, I mean, it's all drawn from my childhood, really.
Do you find it very easy to write for Northerners? Is it easier
yes,
than writing something like habeas corpus?
Well, the idiom's different. I mean, the idiom is more...
Scripts.
It's people... I often think that people think that Northern language is simply English with a dirty dishcloth accent, really, and it isn't that. It's constructed in an entirely different way. I mean, nowadays, if you talk about restoration comedy, people think that all the business of the sides and all that is ludicrous. But in fact, that's exactly what happens with northern conversation. I mean, my mother suffered from depression, and she was. My dad and I were once visiting her in hospital in Keighley, and this hospital had a long corridor that ran the length of the hospital. And coming down this corridor, it was in the middle of the afternoon. There was just one woman. And we were walking down this corridor, and my mum said, do you see this woman coming towards us? She's tried to commit suicide 3 times. Hello!
You perform a lot in your own work. You also perform to a degree in other people's work. Which is easiest? Is the pressure off in a way when you're doing somebody else's work?
Well, I never think... actors get impatient with me. I never think acting is really work in doing other people's things. I mean, Gerald du Maurier said acting's overpaid casual labour, but actors would, as I say, would get furious with that.
I don't think you believe that, really.
I don't know. I don't get asked to act very much. I mean, I did something in Fortunes of War, and I did something in Little Dorrit, but I haven't done anything since then. I mean, if I was an actor full-time, I'd be penniless. I mean, I wouldn't really have any work.
When you're writing, are you one of those people, when you're writing, you wish you were acting, and when you're acting, you wish you were writing? Is there a certain sort
no,
of
when I was in Single Spies, and I found that I couldn't write really. It somehow draws on the same energy, and acting. Well, writing is like work. Acting isn't like work.
Acting's fun.
Well, it can be. I mean, but if you're doing it every night, it begins to pall a bit.
How do you reconcile being, in one aspect of your life, totally exhibitionist, both writing for the public and performing for the public, and yet an intensely private man who gives any sort of indication of embarrassment at being made a fuss of, and yet you have to be made a fuss of to be a success?
Well, I think acting is a peculiar profession in the sense that shy people can do it because you're doing it with a mask. I mean, I found it much easier to I mean, if I was sitting here talking like that and, putting on a voice and putting I'd find it much easier than actually sitting here talking in one's own voice. And when you go on the stage, you're actually hiding behind a mask, and so it is much easier.
Okay.
So what did you think?
Why do you always ask me that at first? Because I'm like, I don't know what to think. I don't really know who he is, what he's written.
Well, what did you think of his accent?
He writes.
Is it difficult to understand him?
No, not really. It does sound a little bit more Southern accent, like not what I think of Yorkshire.
Have you heard? Where have you heard a real Yorkshire accent?
There was a lady who used to go to our old church that had a nice Yorkshire accent. The accent is when you say Yorkshire, you say
Yorkshire.
Yeah, something
Yorkshire.
like the O is a special sound. And then I definitely noticed when he said the word much. Anytime he said much, it was much. I don't know what they would say, but it sounded like the northern accent. The much was northern. But the rest of his vowels were really kind of like forward nasally and kind of flat. And I think that the northern accent is more vertical.
Sing-songy.
And just more space in their mouth. That's what I thought. But I don't know. I have to listen again.
So I guess he says that he's a shy person and that shy people can act well because they have to put on a mask. So they're not showing their true self. They're putting on... I
don't think he's saying that they act necessarily better than others, but that if you're shy, it doesn't bar you from being able to act because you're then not being yourself. You can just put on, like you said, put on a mask.
But interestingly is that they pointed out this idea of being fussed over or fawned over as though that's something you have to overcome. So in England, it's something you would have to overcome. But in the US, I don't think it's at all considered something you have to overcome.
I guess. It has to do with if you're a shy person or not. Because
if you're
a shy person, then you don't want people to look at you that much. You individually, but doing interviews like this, I think would be difficult for a shy person. Whereas acting, you read a script, you practice, you do an accent, you wear costume and makeup, and you're somebody else.
But there's a persistent theme in English society. Boys and girls are taught from very early on to not think much of yourself, to not get big-headed, to not think so well of yourself and be proud. And I think in U.S. society, if you do something well, you're taught to be pleased and that there's nothing wrong with that and to think of yourself well.
I do wonder then if that is pervasive in the schools here because I just automatically think of what I grew up with and the schools were always patting you on the back, participation rewards and things like that.
I think that happens here though.
So that does happen here.
Yeah. But that has not to do, so...
How do they break out of that you're so great mentality?
Being, or asking teachers and people of authority to compliment and praise children and expect that all the time. I think that behavior doesn't necessarily lead to having a lot of pride in the child because in this instance, in English society, you're also pairing that with don't think too highly of yourself. When you're amongst other people, don't consider yourself first. Always consider yourself last, second. And so that's why a lot of English behavior is sort of in social circumstances is recede into the background and not say much and sort of wait and watch and assess.
But people say that Northerners are different.
Yeah, so there is that difference, I guess, between North and South. So when I say English, I mean Southern English.
Okay.
But in the U.S., I don't know of any. Maybe in New England, but I'm not sure. So I think maybe in New England, but I'm not sure. But the American custom for children is if you see that they're doing well at something, they won the race, they hit the home run, they got the good grade, then you don't hold them back. You don't restrain them anyway. You don't say, now don't get too big-headed. Now, don't think you're too great now. But those are common refrains in Southern English society, at least. So I thought that...
I don't know. I guess I don't have that experience. I don't really know how people are talking with their children.
You don't have to see it. You don't have to wait till just when children are in the picture. You see it in adults. So in meetings and in things, they'll say, "Oh, you did well, but don't think that's going to continue," or don't get too big. Don't get too big for your britches or your trousers, or don't get too big-headed. There are these refrains when praise comes, and British society or Southern English society, adult society at least, struggles with praise. So you see this at my job where there's a thing called rewards and recognition, which is from the American side, because we were an American company. And you're meant to use this amongst peers and colleagues, one peer to another, to nominate somebody and say they've done a good job. And so few people used it. And whenever I used it, it was like, wow. It was just like amazing. Can't believe it. So while I think, so in children where they're taught, I think in British society even, children need a chorus of praise. In adult society, I don't see that at all in British society. So
I don't know. I don't know if they're doing it in schools here. So maybe they're not.
Oh.
Who knows?
I just see it with the little children at church, like, "Good job, Harry. Oh, wow, that was amazing."
See, that's parenting. That's not even the school.
Yeah, I know. But I think in a bygone era, parents didn't do that here.
Well, they're doing it now. So
yeah, I know. So maybe the next generation of British kids are going to be different as adults than this generation.
I think we're already seeing that they are. You said that they were security at the co-op because of the youth or whatever, teenagers are causing ruckus.
It could be those teenage migrants who are 30 years old.
Thanks for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments below other videos you'd like us to react to, and be sure to subscribe.
And if you enjoy what we produce, the content, the reactions, the vlogs, and the music, and all the things that we do, then you can become a patron at patreon.com/thepostmodernfamily.
Thanks for watching. Bye!
See you.